Space, the final frontier. This is the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. Its mission to explore the solar system, to seek out new observations and data, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. And now the host of the Observer's Notebook, Tim Robertson.
Hello and welcome to episode 191 of the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. I'm Tim Robertson, the host of the podcast and also the coordinator of the training program. Thanks for downloading and listening. The ALPO collects and analyzes observations of various solar system bodies and their associated phenomenon and publishes detailed reports concerning these bodies in its quarterly publication, the Journal of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. This podcast depends upon donations to keep it going. If you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, you can donate to it via Patreon by giving as little as $1 a month. If you feel even more generous, for $5, you receive early access to the podcast before it goes public. For a monthly donation of $10, you receive a copy of the Novice Observer's Handbook. And for $35 a month, you receive producer credits on the podcast. You can help us out by going to www.patreon.com/observersnotebook. And if you'd like to join the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers, membership begins at only $22 a year. For more information, find out more at www.alpo-astronomy.org. And we're also on Facebook. Just search for ALPO Astronomy. And this podcast also has a Facebook page as well. Just search for Observer's Notebook. And if you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, please subscribe. That way we'll never miss another episode. And now, episode 191. And we're talking the planet Mercury with Frank Melilo. Enjoy. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to this edition of the Observer's Notebook podcast. And today we're very honored to have the coordinator of the Mercury section for the ALPO, Frank Melilo. Welcome to the podcast, Frank.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Yes, it's more than a few years. And things I like to update is some observation I've been received for the past few years. And to tell a little bit about myself, I've been Mercury Coordinator since 2001. I've been an amateur astronomer all my life. Mm-hmm. And, I enjoy the beauty of the universe. Then I got into planetary observing. So it's really my passion now. I joined the ALPO in 1984. So, it's 40 years as a member. I became a Mercury Coordinator in 2001. And I've seen a lot of sorts of reports for the past month. Let's give you roughly an overview of what has been done, like especially this year. It started out very slow this year, but this past month, now I've been getting a lot of observation coming in. One observer from Namibia, Africa, George Forces. He started to imaging Mercury every other day and have quite a few observations. And he started to do very well. I mean, he's done an excellent job in every other planets.
Yeah.
And so he will continue to image Mercury to do the best he can. He got very good skies down there because of Mercury rises higher in the sky than where I live. So we have others observers too. So the past month it's been really phenomenal so far. It's the best of the year.
Yeah. Now Mercury is not the most popular of all the planets. Well, so what made you so interested in that planet?
All right. Well, I know Mercury is a very neglected planet, and other planets are pretty well observed, like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and even Venus too. But Mercury always been a forgotten planet. Why I'm so interested in Mercury, I don't know, because it's so mysterious. We don't know too much about it, and it's a challenging and a rewarding experience to observe and image Mercury. And it always feels like you're trying to get something out of it that has never been seen before. All these years, in the past 100, 200 years, Mercury is nothing but a puzzle. The visual and the imaging, the visual observation is nothing but a puzzle. But for the past 20 years, we have a messenger spacecraft orbiting around Mercury from 2011 to 2015, and it gave us a really breathtaking of what Mercury looked like. Then we compare with observation, and we have improved our skills with advanced cameras. We're able to image Mercury that has never been done before, especially by amateur. So this is really great time. I mean, not too many professional people, professional astronomers, I should say, observe Mercury because it's the key to understanding is study the behavior of Mercury. It's never been done from as an amateur professor.
That's true. That's true. Now, what type of observing programs, are there within the Mercury section?
Well, we have most of the time we have. Lately, the past few years, we have a lot of imaging.
Okay.
The program is to keep tracking the surface detail, like ray craters, why it is so bright, why one ray crater is dimmer and the other is so bright, and other time of the year, it looks that same crater that was bright now it appears dimmer, and the one that appears dimmer appears brighter. I guess maybe it's the face angle, the way we see Mercury on one side and like in the morning sky, and the other side in the evening sky.
Okay.
And we look at two different angles and solar faces, and they look like it's some kind of variation, some albedo variation, and so that's the thing we are concentrating right now. And to see whether or not if there's a change of the albedo features.
All right. So tell us about this current operation of Mercury.
Oh, the current operation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right now is visible in the morning sky. So it will go through Superior Conjunction on June 14, which will enter from the morning, will translate from the morning to the evening side. And now it's getting difficult to observe, getting closer to the sun. And we do have one observation of Mercury just a couple of days ago, and it was like almost a full face because it's on the far side of the sun. And the guy is name is Luigi Marone of Italy, and he did spectacular imaging taken with the C14.
Okay.
And some incredible images, and nearly the full face. Which you almost see the entire surface of Mercury, and that's a very, very difficult, and it gets quite dangerous to get too close to the sun. You got to be careful about that. So hopefully we get some observation in the even apparition, which would take place next month.
Okay. So what you mentioned the C14 this person uses. What type of telescope? What size of telescope do you need?
Okay, you don't need a larger telescope. You don't need a monster telescope. If you have a 6-inch, or 8-inch, or 10-inch, that's pretty accurate. That's pretty good because the larger telescope we're able to magnify more air turbulence. Now you're looking at Mercury, like during the daytime when it's close to the sun, and you got a good chance of the sun will heat up the atmosphere and cause a lot of turbulence. But if you use a smaller aperture, it's still good because Mercury is bright enough, got a high surface of brightness, and it takes up high magnification really well. And you don't need a larger telescope. And and have to be portability because you have to move around. A large telescope cannot move around too much, and it will have trees and boulders in the way, and it's very hard to find a spot for a larger telescope to put on where you can observe Mercury. But when you need a lighter telescope, a portability to move around a little bit to find the best spot to observe Mercury.
Yeah, because Mercury is only visible, like, depending on where it is, but before sunrise and
Yeah.
before and right after sunset. Really,
Yeah. Well,
that's
actually, if you want a good image, if you want to have a good view of Mercury and a good images, it has to be done at daylight when it's high in the sky. Now, the
okay.
morning apparition is the best because you don't have the sun heat up the atmosphere, cause the turbulence, and you find the seeing condition much stable in the morning sky, like maybe like late morning, like 10 o'clock local time, something like that. Now, all the images that I posted is all taken at daylight. You can never get a quality of an image like that when it's low in the sky or when it's with Mercury visible in the twilight, because you only see when it's about 10 to 15 or even 20 degrees above the horizon. That's too low if you want to take a high resolution imaging. So you have to wait when it's high in the sky. Like again, Mercury is always bright, but you have to be a little careful. In order to image Mercury in daylight, I usually put the telescope in the shade in the roof of my home, and the sun is blocking.
Okay.
And so you have a short window of opportunity in an open area before the sun comes out and the telescope is in the sunlight, and
Right.
you got all the air turbulence. So once you get Mercury in an opening area, you have a very short window opportunity to image Mercury and observe as much as you can, because it has to be very quick. You can take your time. Okay, I'll wait 10, 15, 20 minutes later. No, every minute counts before the sunlight hit the telescope.
Okay. Now, because Mercury is so bright, do you recommend using some type of color filter?
Okay. Yes. The best filter to use is the red filter. If you have a Raptor 25, it's good. If you have a Batter 610 nanometers or 685 nanometers, long pass filter, yeah. What the filter does is to block off the blue light and increases the contrast on the surface. And so when you see it visually, the blue background is darkened.
Right.
So you're able to increase the contrast.
That's what the red filter will do. It'll darken the sky.
And also, it helps to compromise the air turbulence too. So a little bit of help here and there. So the red filter is the best to use.
Okay, great.
And so also, like I said, some of the significant features that you can observe on Mercury, like the ray crater. Ray crater is a perfect example because they're bright, they have enough contrast. And what I mean the ray crater is that, yes, it is a crater, but you don't see the crater themselves. You see the impact rays, like you see on the moon, Tycho, Capricornus, and you see those rays.
Right.
And you can see with the naked eye, when you look at the moon, you can see the Tycho ray craters, ejected rays are stretching across the surface of the moon. Well, we can see this Mercury the same way, but however, Mercury has a stronger gravity than the moon does, because the gravity on the moon is not weak, and when there's an impact, you have all the ejected material stretching nearly across the surface of the moon. But the Mercury have the stronger gravity, so the impact, the ejected rate are much shorter. Much shorter and more condensed, and it gives a very high reflectivity from the sun, so we can view them at the bright spot instead of just the crater itself.
Okay.
So visually, it looked like a white spot, and when you image it, it's like a white spot. And so some are brighter, some are dimmer, and the dimmer one sometimes it looks very bright, and the larger impact ray crater sometimes it looks dim. It depends on the phase angle, what you see as seen from Earth. So.
Okay. So we're coming up on conjunction of Mercury with the sun. And then when do you think it'll be easily visible in the evening sky?
Okay. After June 14th, Mercury will enter the evening sky. But however, the eclipses would be kind of shallow, so it would be a little bit south of the sun.
Okay.
And of course, you're going to have Venus. Venus went through the Superior conjunction just a couple of days ago, and also would join Mercury through, especially early July, but they would be a little bit too close to the sun. It will be, like I said, the eclipse will be a little bit on the shallow side because it would set a lot sooner after the sun. And probably, if you have a pair of binoculars, probably you can see Venus. Of course, Mercury we can thought to be visible naked eye very shortly after sundown.
Okay.
But late in the summer, it would reach a greater elongation. I don't remember offhand. Probably the end of July or early August. It will be visible shortly right after sunset, but it's not a very good apparition as seen from the northern hemisphere. But the southern hemisphere, Mercury will be much higher in the sky because the angle is much steeper than you receive from the northern hemisphere. So it would stay up longer from the southern hemisphere instead of in the northern hemisphere.
Okay. So what are some of the significant observations or discoveries that have been made by amateurs with Mercury?
I would say the ray craters. They're very impressive. They're easily visible. And when you know the ray craters, you're able to see at the right spot. Sometimes you're trying to see as many as you can because they're very bright. And some of the small ones look very bright too. And you want to compare with the messenger. The messenger image, you can compare with the simulation of the day of the observing and compare it to Mercury. And you can able to compare, you know, what's real or what's not real, what's there when it's not there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, with the messenger's images and compared to the day you're observing, you can compare and see, you know, whether or not, you know, you can compare to one another. So I think with the ray craters are very impressive. And some of the bright albedo features also, and some of the dark features also. So, you know, you get able to track them and you can able to see, you know, when you observe one day to another, it march across the field from, you know, from when the phase changes. So.
Okay, great. So what do you see for the future of the Mercury section?
Well, I hope we continue to get as many observers as possible, and we're able to, you know, determine more features that can be seen from Earth. So we're going to try to get as many observations as possible, and we can compare with the messenger simulated view, and to see what we can observe from Earth. Okay. And you know, so everybody, you know, whoever wanted interested in observing Mercury can improve their skills, and hopefully we can able to continue to do more observation.
Mm-hmm. And all the observations are published in the Journal of the ALPO, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, every year, I write the annual report. As a matter of fact, the 2022 observation of Mercury will be published soon, and I'm going to be working in 2023. Okay. And then, you know, I do this on a yearly basis. So.
Okay, great. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about the Mercury section?
No, keep observing Mercury and make sure Mercury smiles to us. And you know, so, and we hope we learn more things. As a matter of fact, we have another space program, another space mission on the way to Mercury.
We do.
Colombo.
Okay.
The European Space Agency mission. They're supposed to arrive there, if I remember correctly, 2025, next year. Okay. And so we can able to see what they can, you know, what kind of observations they're going to do, take more images of the surface, and we compare with the messenger image 10 years ago. So see if there's any change. And that's a good way to keep track of Mercury if there's any change, which I doubt it very much, like if there's a new crater or something like that. But that's very remotely. But what I would like to see is to determine the changes of the albedo features from two different angles, face angle I see from Earth.
Okay. Interesting. Well, Frank, I really want to thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much. And I'll just hopefully I will get more observation.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, everybody get out there and just take a look at Mercury and see what you can see.
Yes, and you never know. Mercury may surprise us if you have a good view.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Frank.
Yeah. Okay, Tim. Thank you very much.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Observer's Notebook podcast. Again, I want to thank Frank Melilo for coming on and giving us a nice discussion about Mercury. Hey, get out there and observe Mercury. I think you'll be surprised. We upload new episodes of the Observer's Notebook on the 1st and 15th of every month. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. If you do, please give us a rating and a review. I really appreciate it. You can also listen to us on Apple Radio, iHeartRadio, Soundcloud, Spreaker, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon Echo, Spotify, and this podcast also has its own YouTube channel. You can check us out there. And if you do, subscribe to that as well. You can help support the podcast by donating to it via Patreon, where you can give up to $35 a month, where you'll receive 1 year's membership to the ALPO and producer credits on the podcast. And with that, I want to thank the producers of this podcast, Steve Siedentop and Michael Moyer, for their generous support of the Observer's Notebook. The link for Patreon, as well as the link for the ALPO, is in the show notes. If you'd like to get a hold of me, my email address is commentman@commentman.net or on Twitter at @observersnbpod. And until next time, my hope is you always have clear and steady skies. Thanks for listening.